welcome back. What I thought I'd do is do a little blog with you, and because of my upcoming campaign of carping and tension, I thought I'd do a blog to talk about my carp fishing and where it started and where it is today. It goes back a long way. I think it was in the 80s when I first started to go carp fishing. When I lived in London, I was more of a river man, going to the Kennet for the barbel, on the Colne for the chub, and in the winter I used to go for the pike, because back in the day at Reading they used to have some massive matches once a month, and I used to love that. Anyway, different story. So I think the first ticket I bought was a William Boyer's ticket, and on that ticket used to be the world famous fishery which is now Farlows. I fished it for carp, for bream and for pike. You know, back then, like I said, I wasn't all in carp. I was an all-rounder, like I still am today. I remember having a few out of Farlows, but I wasn't into carping as such, but I was in Farlows fishing for them. And I think back then, I think I was on sweet corn and all that sort of thing. The boilers and that were just coming, sort of thing. It was all bread and sweet corn and that sort of thing. And I didn't really go carping until Colnbrook West was open. And those of you that know that area of West London, I started in Colnbrook West as it just opened up. I think what they did, there's a lake next to it called Orlicks, and they took a quarter of that lake and turned it into a carp fishery. Now if you look at this picture here, it's barren, absolutely barren. Even though it's winter, as you can see, I'm not scared of fishing in the winter. But yeah, that had just started to take off, Colnbrook West. They'd just built it. I even remember seeing it with no water in it. So what's that now? That must be nearly 40 years old, that lake now. I should go back and have a look at it. But that's when I first started to buy carp stuff. I think the rods I had then were Diamorphoses, I think that's the name of them. And they even had, those of you remember West London, was West Middlesex Angling printed on them. And the reels were Daiwa emblems, I think. They weren't the tournaments, they were emblems. And they weren't the big ones, they were the smaller ones of the, I think there was two lots. You had the big pit ones that were coming out then as they were testing. And I think then they were just coming up with the idea on the Daiwa reels was the bait runner on the front. I don't know if they still use that now, but that's what they were looking into. But yeah, Colnbrook West, I fished it for quite a while. And as you can see, that they were small ones, but obviously now they're probably 40 pluses now, maybe even 50. But I was flittering around different places, and I think if you have a look at this picture, this is John's pit, which I will talk about at least 3 times in this, because this was one of my first little trips to John's. And I had this, because he had seen that I was carping, he said, come and fish my lake, have a look at this. And that's one of my first out of there. But I'm trying to think when I went to Toll Pits, but I think before that I went to Darenth. Now that's called now Darenth Big Pit. Now I used to get a lift there to Essex, and on my second trip, it's still my PB to this day. I had this. Now he or she is £31.13. Now, my second trip there, I was offered to fish with a bloke was going around with Robin Red boilies, and I gave him a go. And that carp, I saw, it jumped that evening. And thinking back at that lake, you know how rigs have changed over the years. My God, I'm talking 40 plus years. They were long leaders, long rigs and tiny weights. And I think back then Darren looked very clay water. And I think looking at that carp, you can see that it's got that look. It hasn't got all its lovely colours. It's got that creamy look, just a bit dull. Yeah, so I had him on Robin Red, and because back then we didn't have bait boats, we weren't spodding, we weren't doing any of that. I think all we had then was catapults, powerful catapults, and I think coming out then was the Cobra. And yeah, I'm sure it was the Cobra that came out, and that's all we had. And back then, because I used to fish Savay for pike, but the amount of carpmen that you used to see there, and the rigs that they used to use there, that's when I first saw someone super gluing maggots onto a cork ball. Now I'm talking 30 years ago. So they were on it. Savay was a lovely lake. I think I only fished it once or twice for the tench, but yeah, that was too daunting for me. But yeah, so going back to Darren, and about 4 o'clock in the morning, he or she turned up, and I mean, it gave me the right run around. And the two fishermen in the other swim, who were two good fellas, come and help me, and he said, look, I know what you've got in the net, so go and sit down, get your head clear, we'll get everything ready for you, because if you look at my fish before that, I think my biggest fish was 19 pounds, something like that, and there we go, I've jumped the 20s and got into the 30s, but yeah, and I never went back there after that. Never went back. I think after that, me and my mate Gal, we started to fish toll pits. Now, I think Terry Earn, he's fished that, and out of toll pits, I had 2 doubles. Now, there were some crackers in there at the time, but I had 2 doubles, and I was told at the time, for me to get doubles out of there, they're the hardest ones to get out of there, but I didn't want doubles, I wanted 20s, and yeah, so, but on that complex was about 3 other lakes, and these 3 fish that you see here now are out of it, and they're 19 pound. They look as if I thought I was going to get me first 20, but no, they went to 19. But you've got to remember, this is long ago. So I fished toll pits. Now, what I will say, my favourite bait was always pineapple pop-up or pineapple bottoms, and toll pits, it took off with the pineapple, it did, and rigs and that I'm not sure. See, I can remember building a curved rig with just I think this was when West Middlesex angling was still open, so we're talking 35 years ago, and it used to be the Drenham float stop and one of its rings, and the D rig then, back then, was a massive D. It used to come off the hook right the way back down onto the rig, so it had a massive D, so it could spit right round, not like the little D rigs we use now. Yeah, and And thinking back as well, a long way back, they brought out what's the word? Where the line goes back in on itself. Kesmark used to do it, and you can't get it no more. And it's like similar to what you do with your lead core now. When you go back in, you can thread it back in. I can't think of the word. Why can't I? But yeah, that was 40 years ago. Kesmark brought that out, and I suppose that's the way my rigs were then. Was with a braid, and where did I go from there? Where did I go from Toll-Pits? From Toll-Pits, I think I moved out of London, and that's when I left John's Carp behind, and once I moved up into Leighton Buzzard, it was mostly canal fishing for the carp and Tiddenfoot. Now that's got some good fish. Tiddy has got some good fish, but that canal back then, we're talking 28 years ago, maybe, the canal was full of carp, full of them, and I had some. Now I used to feed the carp in Linslade with chickpea, and I remember once I was fishing down there in Linslade. I had one on from this corner, and while I was fishing trying to catch this other fish, I looked round, and on the corner where I was fishing there's a tail up, and once they were feeding on that chickpea, it was chickpea, hemp and sweet corn, and all I used to do was tip the chickpea with a bit of floating corn so it sat up a little bit. But yeah, the canals back then were phenomenal, and those of you who have seen me recently, I've been down the canal, 5 sessions? Not a knock. But I went to Tiddy. I caught a nice one out of Tiddy. That's me. I did go back to Tiddenfoot quite recently, but this was when I first came here. Now, that carp you can see there, I used a little trick with that one. I think that was on 218 mils, could have been 215s. But what I used was a bit of pasta stick. And you push it in, and you push the other one onto it so they're a double, like a dumbbell. So when I'm throwing them down the edge, the carp are getting used to picking up doubles. So when you put your hook out with 2 doubles on it, they're not spooked by it. They've been eating them for as long as you've been putting them out there. And that fish I caught within an hour of darkness down the edge. Now, I've mentioned the edge again. I'm not a distance man. I know back in the day at Save you had to get out a little bit, but not the distances we are talking about, you know what Danny and his mates fish. I'm a in man, I'm a margin man, and it's worked for me. Maybe I would have caught more if I'd gone further out, but no, I've always been a margin man. And my carp rods, you'll see soon, at the moment are Shimano Tribal, but they're only 2 3/4, and I can't fish the way they fish for these 3.5 and 4 pound test curve rods. I need to feel what the fish is doing. I can't hold a stick in my hand that's not. I know you'll get used to it, but if you want a nice curve in your rod where you can feel him going, it's nice to feel what they're doing. With these 3s and 4s, remember, this is my choice. This is not me saying you shouldn't go out and do it. That's, you know what I mean, spod rods and all that. We never heard of them. Never heard of them. Never even thought of even marking out your rods. What an invention that was, wasn't it? That saved everybody. But see, now, thinking about it, with this, everybody knows your mark now. You know, it's 18 out there, 20 out there, 25 out that way, 14 that way. and it's good, but everybody knows where your swim is and where the fish are. But saying that, I was always one for turning up at a lake and just going out with a single, because you just don't know who was there the day before. So if you go out with a single and you've gone on people's bait, you ain't making another load of bait out there for nothing. So yeah, that's the way I would think about it. But from the canals, now I've had some nice fish out the canal. I've been pretty lucky. I think I'm on me, is it 220s I've had? And one was off the top. I could hear him coming along. I used to fish with big lots of bread, big clumps of bread, and what I used to do is walk up the canal a bit further on from where I was fishing down the edge and put bread in. So what you'll hear is the sucking, and you'll know he's coming or she's coming. Because if you just leave it there, you'll get caught out. But yeah, what I used to do is throw a few bits down and let the fish come along. And yeah, that's blatant buzzard again, that 20. But the other one, which the picture doesn't look very good, but that I was fishing for chub in February. And just a little pull round on a little light rod. It was an absolute nightmare trying to lift him out of the water. Absolute nightmare. But I've had a few from this spot, but I'll probably go again this February. So yeah, I went quiet on the carp side for quite a while. But what I used to do as well, I used to go to people that know Leighton Buzz. I used to go to Alders. They got a specimen lake there, and as you can see there, that's a £30 common, that is. Now, I don't really talk about it because it's like a runs water, but the specimen lake isn't such a runs water. You have to work at it, and it's a lovely fishery. But believe me, if you need to go and catch fish, you have to go to Alders, and the people at Alders are great. They are great. They look after you, and I am thinking, if my thought of changing my way of fishing, if I'm going to go for the carp, I might join Alders, and there was another one I was looking at joining. I can't think what it is now. To keep the carp going, because a lot of people like the carp, don't they? They like to see people catching carp, and it might be the way I go. But I'm so looking forward to going up to my mate's fishery. All the papers are signed, and I'm going to go there, I think, in the gap between Christmas and New Year. I'm not going to rush there. It's November now, isn't it? So I might do a few recce's. I like to go and have a look what I'm looking at, and what swims and that sort of thing. But I'm going to go with the solid bag, because you don't know what other people have put in. You know, some people are on the fair brass thing. You have to fill it in. Now we all know that works. Blimey, you've only got to watch the videos, but you don't know who was there the day before. So if you put a solid bag out, you're not throwing it all in, are you? So if you put it in, you can't take it out. So I'm going to go with solid bags, and with me, I only fish with 2 rods, and I've always done that. You've got to remember, back in London, I'm sure in the north you could use 3, but in the angling area, I'm sure it's the angling area, you could only use 2 rods, and I've never changed. Never changed. And just thinking back then with Farlow's, I remember Farlow's was one of the first lakes back then where you could fish in the close season. They made it into a trout fishery, but obviously it was not boilies. You could, or maybe you could get away with sweet corn and that sort of thing, but no boilies. It was sweet corn, maggot, and yeah. So in the close season, you could fish it. So there's a lot of you watching this would even know the close season, and I have jumped a little bit. Now I fished I've just thought back. I fished a lake for 2 years and I had one take, and that was off the top. Now, we knew there weren't a lot in it. Now, you've got to remember we were very blind to carp fishing, but what it did do for them 2 years is taught me how to catch carp. And what I mean, you had to find features. You had to all the watercraft. You couldn't just throw it in. It was these days commercial fisheries. Lads now you're spoiled, absolutely spoiled. You just chuck it in and feed them. Back then you had to work. You do have to work, and it puts you in good stead. Puts you in good stead. See, if you was to go to Farlow's now, you'd have to figure out where the bars are and that sort of thing. But a commercial man that's always fished commercials wouldn't have a clue. He wouldn't have a clue that you had to look for all that. But it's put me in good stead, even though I am going I am going to a commercial lake now. But my age, nearly 62, I've earned me what's the word? A bit of ease, but it's not. I think there's one run lake and one harder lake. Now, I'd love to just catch a winter 20. I love catching winter 20, even though there's 30s and 40s in there. A winter 20. See, in my eyes, I know that they're out there now, 50 pounders and blah blah blah. But a 20 pounder is still a good fish, and it needs the respect. I mean, even a 15-pound common. And thinking back then, the mirrors used to be like footballs, but these days all you see, well, I think, is long mirrors. You don't see the old style, and commons used to be like torpedoes, and yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I've been out recently down the canal and not had any, but we'll see. Winter's here now anyway. But I hope that's a little insight of my carping. It's been over a 40-year span, and the bivvy that I've got at the moment is a Nash. I think it's a 2-man, but I used to have the Nash. Or no, was it Nash? 1-man. When I first started at Colnbrook West, I think it was the Nash. But yeah, I'm in the 2-man now. But I have got me Low Pro, which is a great bit of kit, that is. And like I said, I'm going to go with the solid bag. And I have got pop-ups, wafters, 2 different type. I think one's cream and one's pineapple, I think. And I have got pink pop-ups, which seems to do the business everywhere else, but I think I'll get some wafters though. But yeah, that's my little chat. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, because yeah, I'm gonna go for the carp and the tench, because there's in Willow at this new fishery is an 11-pounder. So I will put baits on come the spring to fish for both fish, you know, like I did. Where did I do it? Big Pit at Newport Pagnell, when I was tenching there on the chod. I'll go out with the chod. I won't overfeed them. I don't know. See, thinking back again, all we used to put back out there was about 50 to 60 boilies to start with. Spread them out. We never used to have them all in one spot, because you couldn't do that then. We used to just spread it. I remember seeing a video on a golf course where on the green he just threw all the balls, the boilies, onto the green, and that's what it sort of looks like. So they're going down. But nowadays, with all the spodding and everything else, like I've got a bushwhacker now, so I can just push out and put my bait exactly where I want it. But see, that might work on the little pit, but on the big pit, I don't know. It's vast, not too vast. God no. It's I don't know if you can get around the edges, but yeah, I'm looking forward to using that bushwhacker again. But yeah, so I keep thinking of other things as I'm talking. But anything else? I think no. So hopefully, in the next month, I've got a video out. I've got a nice 20-pound carp, and yeah, see you soon. Right, one more thing before I go. I promised you I'd talk about John's again, didn't I? Now, I've been back there twice, and John's Lake is in West London. It's leased to, I think it's British Airways, I think, and I'm allowed to fish it, well, you know, whenever I like really. But if you have a look at these fish that are in there, me and Ollie did see one in there. It's huge, absolutely huge. And see, we normally fish it in the winter when the weed dies off, but I might have to go to John, because hopefully we can go there the end of Feb again and see if we can get some of these fish. They're crackers, absolute crackers. And obviously I will take the video. And yeah, I think that's it. I've got notes here to remind me, but I think I've mentioned it. Because what I will say, there used to be another tackle shop open near Farlow's. It was Judd's in Hillingdon. Now, I think I used to buy most of my stuff from there. It was either, once West Middlesex closed, I went to Judd's in Hillingdon, and even the cabin in Ruislip. And I think that's where I used to buy my ticket for Reading and District, was at the cabin. But yeah, Judd's in Hillingdon, I think that's just closed down now after all these years. I remember buying my first pipe rods from there, and they've only recently, I've changed them. Ollie broke one, landing a catfish, so I had to renew them. But yeah, they're the two old tackle shops I remember. But West Middlesex, that was a sad day when that shut. A very sad day for me. But yeah, right, carping. Let's go and do it. Is it between Christmas and January? I'm going to go and do it. So yeah, see you soon.